Right, the NSE All Share Index is little change today. This week, the bourse is down about 1.3%. Kayode Akindele, a partner at TEA Capital, joins me to review the trading day. Thank you so much, Kayode, for joining us. Like I mentioned earlier, really very little changes in terms of where the market is right now. Do you get the sense that the market is about to get into this trading range where it seems to be moving sideways, or do you think that there's still a lot of earnings news out there that could tip the scales and get the market moving one way or the other?
I think generally it's going to stay this way until, I think, really we're waiting for political changes. Let's look at what the transition committee is going to be from the APC side, and the handover of government. I think that will what's really going to drive the market. I think right now, any of the movements is just going to be sideways.
And what about earnings? I mean, we saw quite a few today, CAP reporting, First Aluminium. Do you get the sense that this earnings season is insignificant in terms of where the market goes? We have seen quite some mixed results from the banking sector, and I guess some stocks have moved in one direction or the other. But the broader market right now, over the last 2 days, seems to be stabilizing. Do you get the sense that going forward, those Q1 numbers will not be significant in terms of where the market goes?
I don't think so. I think the biggest issue is going macroeconomic things, on issues on Naira, the valuation of the Naira, and political risk. I think once those two factors are paying more into the market right now than earnings.
What about monetary policy? I guess there's a question mark there in terms of what the central bank does next, the MPC does in terms of monetary policy. Inflation is ticking up a bit, and so one gets the sense that we need to stay tight. We have the oil price low, so everything points to tight monetary policy, at least in the foreseeable future.
I think that's going to continue. I think the monetary policy right now, there's very little room to tighten even more. If you look at where the market is, I think everyone expects CBN to continue where it is right now, which is a pretty tight policy. But going forward, the CBN is going to have to go forward in line with the whoever the new Minister of Finance is, and government fiscal policy that goes forward. And then we'll see more of an outlook of where they think the market is going to go. But at the moment, I think in the short term, expect the tight policy to continue. Right.
So if you go back into this market, where do you see value at the moment? Like I mentioned, quite a few banks have reported. And incidentally, I was speaking to the CFO of FCMB earlier today. He did say some really interesting stuff about how their retail banking strategy is progressing. Are you bullish on the banks? I mean, what exactly do you like in this market?
I think the banks have had varied reports, as you said. I mean, in terms of the banks, it's really where the revenue growth is going to come from. If you look at, there's been strong loan growth in a lot of the banks, but also NPLs have increased as well. So that is a warning sign in sense of the aggressive loan growth in the NPLs, which could lead to problems. They look at things like, when you talk about retail market, most people look at mortgages or consumer loans. Now, to have until the NRC starts operating fully, or we start having better identification of customers, maybe the BVM program that CBN are pushing right now with the banks, that will help. But I don't think you're going to see that until the medium term. So I don't see really any growth there. They look at the consumer goods factor, and in terms of the consumer goods, now devaluation is a big aspect in that, especially for those who import a lot of their products for there. But agri prices globally are going down, so that should help in that. But I think you see an outlook of where you think Naira is going to go, and also in terms of consumer spending, because everyone expects a new government to tighten the budget and to try and cut costs because of lower oil price, and how that's going to affect consumer spending.
Right, but what about valuations? Isn't that an issue for you? Most analysts are telling us the market is cheap. Isn't that a consideration for you?
It's a consideration to an extent, but if most analysts said market is pretty cheap now compared to the past, but then some analysts will tell you that they expect Naira to be around 230, 240 by the end of the year.
So that's a big risk.
So that's a big risk, exactly. So as an investor, do I go in now, or do I wait for, especially if I'm doing foreign inflows, do I wait until later when I expect Naira maybe to be devalued and for it to be even cheaper?
But what do you think the Buhari administration really needs to get right here? Do you think, especially when you look at what happened right after the elections, the market gained 8% in one day. Do you get the sense that a new team, a new person at the helms could just be that comfort that foreign investors are looking for? And as they do that, if they do find that comfort, they bring money back and then the Naira just stabilizes. Do you think that that one move that Buhari takes office could really help the market?
Yeah, I think his team is very important. The team of whoever picks...
I won't only find that out
at then, I think if he has a very competent, technocratic-centric ministerial team and starts appointing, because there are lots of heads of new organizations he has to appoint as well. If the market feels that, look, people who are competent, who are going to drive things forward and put in the reforms that are required, that's going to be a big fill up to the market. If it's the same kind of group of politicians, old hands that are brought in, and people is more of the same, and that's not really going to drive the market. So I think it's very key that he hits the ground running, hits the ground with a team that both local and foreign investors think, look, this is a team that can work.
Right, and you don't think it matters where the oil price is. So even if you get a great team and the oil price is still somewhere around 50, 55, what do you think will happen?
I think the market is getting, especially international investors are getting more knowledgeable about the Nigerian market. I mean, oil price is important for government revenues. In terms of diversification of the Nigerian economy, it's pretty well diversified in that extent. So I think most people expect the oil price to be around about where it is now, at least for the short term. Yeah. It might drop a bit if Iran comes back into the market, but Iran coming back to the market should only really affect price in 2016. Right. So I think they expect that macro level not to change that much.
Right.
Now, I think the big issue right now is, in essence, is, look, have you got a team that can drive reforms required and just drive the economy? I think that is going to be a much bigger influence than anything else.
Right, okay, final point. Of course, I wonder if you caught on Power Lunch my interview with the Acting Director General of the Security and Exchange Commission. The big issue, of course, is the interim management that has been put in place at BGL. And I do get the sense that this is one move to try and, boost investor confidence, making sure that the SEC is taking action. But then again, on the flip side, some people I have spoken to suggesting that maybe this move was a bit excessive because they're taking over the whole BGL group, but the issues are really situated in maybe the asset management or the stockbroking business. Your take on this move, how do you read it?
I think it depends what the interim management comes out with. If the issues that they think are in BGL are pre-2009, let's say from the 2008 market crash, and they've just been allowed to fester going forward, then people will question, what's the point of having quarterly returns to SEC? What's the point, what's been happening in the last 5 or 6 years that is taking such a drastic action for that to happen now?
So it took a while.
It took a while. If
so that's
one
question to ask.
Exactly. If the issues are post that period in the last 3 or 4 years, then say, okay, fine. SEC said they've strengthened their management of all institutions, and an institution like BGL is actually instrumental. It's one of the biggest institutions in the market, so it's not a small institution. Right. So why has it fallen through the cracks to that extent? So I think it all depends on that. But I think for SEC to make such a move on such a market institution like BGL, there must be serious worries about it. Right. I don't think you can say it's drastic. I think they only do something like that if they feel they need to. Right. And the fact they've done it, I think, it's interesting in the sense that SEC is using the powers it has and is showing that, look, if things go wrong, is willing to take drastic action to try and make sure the market is stable.
It's a story that we'll continue to follow on to get the outcome of that investigation. Thank you so much, Kayode, for joining us. Kayode Akindele Partner at Tier Capital.